Hi everyone, welcome back to LabTalks Live. You may have noticed that the set has changed. It's a new year, it's a new episode, new set, actually in our new office. And I'm very pleased to say that I'm joined by James today. James, I will throw it straight over to you. And if you'd like to give a brief introduction to yourself, what you do, what you've done, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, great. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. It's a lovely set, lovely new offices. So congratulations, guys. I currently, my current job title and role is Senior Director of Audience Planning and Global Addressable Media Operations. So quite a mouthful. Yeah. But I'm quite new to this company, quite new to this role. We can unpack a little bits of that as we go along. But I would say that really I'm a bit of an agency veteran, bit of a programmatic veteran. I think you can say that because programmatic hasn't really been around for too long, relative to how long marketing's been around for. So I've always been agency side before going to Coca-Cola. 3 different agencies, all fantastic. Havas, Dentsu, and most recently, Matterkind, which is the trading desk of IPG. So right from the start, back in 2012, I've been involved with programmatic back when it was the Wild West, and sort of viewability wasn't even a thing. We were just sort of trying to get to grips with how you can, maximize data technology to deliver great campaigns, and for all intents and purposes, we still are trying to do that. So my career really has been going from programmatic trade desk to programmatic trading desk, trying to keep pace with trends, try to make sure that all of the brilliant brands and clients that I've been serving have been on pace and really are delivering the best results possible for whatever objectives they are trying to achieve. And it's been great to see the programmatic space mature over that time. And I currently now I'm trying to take all of that experience and all of those learnings really and apply them specifically to Coca-Cola. Shall I go on to a little bit about that as well? I'll pause there about a minute. So I guess programmatic specialist. I've done plenty of digital strategy as well along the way, mainly agency side, but now trying to put that all into improving digital and programmatic capabilities for Coke.
So just let's we deal with agencies. I think they have a very difficult task. There's always a ton of companies that have a great solution. So how did you go about kind of seeing what worked, what didn't work? Kind of how would you build out strategies for brands during your time at agencies?
I guess there is a difference between the roles that I've had. I think when you're an agency side, the majority of your junior to middle management years, you're very much focused on a specific account, right, or a specific set of accounts. So you more intimately know the needs of Diageo or MasterCard or Microsoft. You understand what their singular objectives are, their singular audiences are, and then you are able to look at the marketplace, at all the various different DSPs at your disposal, the different audience solutions, different targeting tactics, different measurement capabilities or whatever, and you can quite neatly put together a roadmap, I guess. Yeah. Okay. That if you have clients that are curious and understand that there is very myriad different ways that you can go about solving problems and putting together a custom solution is going to be the best for them, you should probably go on the journey of a roadmap. You should do various different sort of RFIs. These are DSPs that probably have the capabilities that best suit your needs. Yep. These are different sort of data partners that probably have the greatest exposure to your audience. These are different ways that we can measure them, and you go on that journey with them, which is fantastic. I think when you go to a more senior level, you aren't as close to any one account. So it's more important to be at the coalface of trends. Yeah. Okay. I guess trying to deliver thought leadership and trying to, I guess, shine a light on new capabilities, new products that your company, that your business doesn't have the day-to-day time to do because they are busy planning great campaigns, executing, reporting, all that kind of stuff. So you try and be ahead of the connected TV trend. You try and be ahead of attention, and you try and say, this is a really this is a potentially really powerful sort of tool or instrument that you guys can use as your business. This is why these are the providers you could consider. It would be amazing if we got some tests on the board so we can actually try and prove kind of this stuff and share it more broadly, so you raise the capability of the business more broadly by identifying trends and bringing them in front of your account managers and your account directors.
Nice. So I guess that kind of the culmination of having experience using the platforms in the early part of your career to like spotting the trends kind of then made sense to go from a media agency over to and take those insights Coca-Cola to deliver that for them across their media strategies.
Yeah, I would say so. Definitely. We were talking before, which I think is a really relevant point now. The way that Coca-Cola is organized is we're a networked organization, and we have 9 different sort of regions that are used, and rightly so. They are in charge of making marketing decisions when it comes to how best to invest budget. So my role is global, and our what the best thing that we can do is maybe create solutions or create points of view from the center to allow these different local marketing teams to take them and improve the performance of their campaigns. So yes, I think a combination of having hands-on experience with platforms and being able to appreciate the different products and capabilities they might be rolling out, along with trying to hopefully identify what important trends are, what maybe less important trends are, and combining that into a point of view. Again, I'm very early into this role, but hopefully that kind of thing will be of benefit. Yeah,
I can imagine. So maybe the next question I'll ask you is what is the kind of strategy that you're looking to roll out now, and like what trends are you seeing in the programmatic marketplace that really interest you?
Yeah. So my strategy that I think will work, and I hope will work.
Sure it will, yeah.
Is that whatever we sort of like create or build or talk about like globally from the center has to have a set of criteria.
Yeah. Okay.
So it has to be globally relevant. So not just sort of like pertinent really for any one market. It has to have quite a simple value proposition, something that anybody can understand no matter where they are in the globe on quite simple terms. It has to have low barrier to entry. So if possible, we can do a lot of the heavy lifting like ourselves, like from the center, make it easy for these things to be adopted, have a clear measurable impact. So ideally we started here, we ended up here. So at the end of whatever the test might be or the year might be, you can clearly demonstrate that. And then finally, impactful. So we'll make some sort of impact. So that's the sort of approach I'm sort of taking to anything that I'm going to invest some time into. That's the strategy. So that's the answer to the first part of your question.
I think that's it's interesting that you frame it that way, because it's if I liken it to decentralized networks, right? You have people with relevant experience for their particular market, the quirks of that market, the best ways to deliver your message to their audiences. That kind of almost is like a decentralized strategy, as it were. And then your role is to like create the governance of that strategy. So like the framework in which you can operate, but then still allow those people to use their local expertise to deliver something that does really resonate, because I'm sure it does. Well, obviously varies from country to country and market to market.
Yeah, exactly. Having allowing the ability to take something broad but effective and to localize it, personalize it is the only way that I think a global to local relationship can really succeed. So yeah.
I actually this is a bit of a tangent, but I think it's quite interesting.
Go for it. Great.
I watched the Napoleon film at the weekend.
Napoleon not Dynamite.
No. The Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott.
Sorry,
I thought that was all right.
Much more highbrow.
And then I was reading about Napoleon, and that's what he employed to his armies, was this idea of like, okay, I'll train you on the strategy, but then you have the agency to actually deliver what you want, depending on what you're seeing in front of you. So that worked very well for him, albeit in a slightly different, more aggressive context. But sorry, I'm good at tangents.
He was pretty successful to a degree.
So I can imagine that is to a degree not successful enough if you're British. So I think that sounds like that sounds difficult. It sounds like a lot of moving parts. Like, what do you think is going to make that easier for you to do as you kind of roll out the strategies that you're looking to implement?
Probably TBC, to be honest.
Yeah,
but as I probably the one thing that maybe two things. I think like communication is going to be critical, and I'll just, again, all of those things need to be clearly communicated. Yeah. And I really, this is the way that I've always gone about things. I'd never want to force any client or any individual to do something. It's far more effective if it's more carrot than stick.
I totally agree. Yeah.
This is something that we've looked at. Hopefully, I've communicated that this value is clear to you, and you're interested and excited to maybe test it. So communicating in that way, very much sort of like empowering people rather than mandating anything. Yeah. I think it's going to be the style in which success comes. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I'm early into this, and I'm sure that I will improve and hopefully iterate as we go along. Yeah. I think you were asking what are some of the sort of like trends that I might be thinking about. Will I say so? Well, this is just top of mind at the moment, and it is a big trend that has been maturing and growing for a little while now. But probably something around attention.
Okay, yeah,
and really trying to understand as a portfolio. We have different brands that are on different stages of their journeys. Yeah. Some of them are very, very established. They have a really high level of awareness. Yeah. They have different jobs to do. Some of them are new. We have a new product development. We really, really value innovation and that kind of thing. So I think from the center, we might have good scope to be able to pull together a series of tests, sort of network tests, and be able to try and demonstrate or illustrate at a portfolio level what optimal attention might be for certain brands when you're trying to do certain jobs by sort of bringing together, again, all these different studies, different tests, or at least coordinating some sort of robust test roadmap to land at those kind of sort of guidance. So that's just sort of top of mind at the moment. So that's something that we're thinking about.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I was reading, I've not been drinking recently, so I've been reading about other people that share my plight. But actually I was quite surprised that a number of younger people are now kind of taking out, like drinking like low and no alcohol beverage. I think it was like 39% of people in the UK now like not drinking so much, which I think probably presents quite a nice opportunity for new products to evolve, but then equally establish your existing portfolio brands within that growing niche of people that are perhaps doing other things now rather than necking 4 pints at the pub. But I think it's cool that you look at it that way, and I think that's probably different to perhaps, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm jumping to conclusions, but like where you were a media agency where it's like actually like more like you get to set the strategy, whereas like, I guess at the media you're kind of delivering the strategy through a number of different products. Because I thought you maybe talk about like a connected TV or like a particular ad format, but I think it's really interesting that, and now obvious in hindsight, that you look at it from a much broader perspective of capturing people's attentions at the right time and not necessarily minding too much exactly how that's being executed, but as long as you are getting the people at the right time to get your message across.
I think so, exactly. Because we do have like brilliant marketers in the company. We have people who are very skilled media practitioners and professionals. So when you take connected TV, for example, there probably isn't really much of a global position that you can take on it.
Fair enough.
You will have a different connected TV landscape in different markets, and you kind of leave it up to those markets to utilize that channel on that device as best as possible. So it is very much that kind of thinking around what is going to deliver global relevance, benefit, and all that kind of thing, and taking that into any sort of product solutions or you might develop. So supply probably is another one that maybe we can jump to that, because I think we want to talk about maybe some sort of like challenges and in programmatic. You at the moment you probably can't. You have everyone has seen like the ANA report, right? And it's I guess it's maybe it's eye-opening. Maybe it's. I don't think that for being programmatic so long, you like to think that so much of your investment has been maybe sort of misguided. I don't know if that is the case, but I think it does a good job at shining a light on, I guess, areas of the supply chain that really could be sort of tightened up or better or better controlled. So I don't know if we are going to do this as a business, but I think that just from anybody looking at that report, the appetite and the benefit of owning your own supply chain end to end possibly has some clear benefits. So I'm not sure we are going to do this as a business. It's really sort of early doors in discussing it.
Yeah.
But being able to be confident of your demand side setup and your supply side setup and everything in between, I think is something, again, from a global perspective, could well be worth some investment, could well be worth developing and refining and then making available. But again, we'll see.
I think the ANA reports originally, there's also a UK version, ISBA, which had some similar findings, and I don't necessarily think it's just the nature of the technology, right? Like, again, to kind of talk about centralized versus decentralization, right? The coolest thing, in my opinion, about decentralization is that it makes a transaction trustless. There's no party in the middle that you have to be like, okay, I believe they're going to say what they're going to do, right? That's fundamentally what centralization does. Like, that's how you trust the bank, you trust, another example, you trust a server to deliver results as per the criteria that are set to deliver that particular transaction. But ultimately, it's not built in a way to allow these servers to communicate in a very effective means. A lot of the time it's like, hey, you need a report, you have to match that report. That brings in that degree of just basic human error, right? When it's like you're dealing with tons of spreadsheets and APIs and so on. What's cool about decentralization, and what we do we call it our node management system, or NMS, is that we've basically, going to get a bit hot and heavy, but we have this gossip protocol. So our respective nodes on the network, there's 40 of them now, are able to speak to each other and ensure that node A is following the rules, so that node B can then validate that transaction and then write it to a ledger. So everyone is contributing to one record, rather than having their own respective records that live wherever those servers live, and then matching them at the end. So it just allows for more confluence across a network, provides more transparency, and ultimately you can then take ownership of supply all the way through, or demand all the way through to supply, and see exactly what's gone on, and kind of realize that premise of like not having to trust. You can just verify the information, which ultimately saves time, makes spend more effective, and just ultimately will deliver more results as per the KPIs that you're setting for how you're trying to speak to your audiences.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, again, all of those benefits are so simple and clear to understand that is the kind of thing that really gets me interested, and I think that has great potential to be adopted, and be adopted at scale and have meaningful impact. I don't think it is just me. Really, I think there's a few commentators that have been speaking about 2024 as potentially the year of curation.
Yeah. Okay.
Having your own curated supply, and having a little bit more confidence and control and transparency around how that is accessed. Yeah. With my programmatic hat on, I think that's being talked about quite a lot. So to what degree that manifests, because agencies already do a really good job of it. Actually, they do, like that. They command a lot of programmatic investment, more than probably any one brand does. So have already been on that journey. So who knows in what way that might manifest. It might be in different ways. Whatever is going to be more beneficial, but ultimately it's to the same cause of removing resellers, removing unnecessary hops in the journey, all that kind of stuff, to try and maximize working media, as well as appropriately pay for technology and capabilities that is going to make the end impression more effective.
Totally agree. And I think even just to like the publisher at the end, like give them more value for the value they're creating.
Sure,
I spent 100%. A lot of time working at 18 months working at News UK before we started Alchemy, and the amount of content that that business produces is phenomenal. You know, like they have a radio station going out the roof. They have connected TV. They also print a newspaper that they maintain a digital edition of both the newspapers that they run. It's like they are flat out all of the time, and there's new news every day. It's kind of like the clues in the name there. So it's like, I think where out of nowhere, really, the internet came around and they're like, shit, we still got to print newspapers, you know, like we still got to deliver our radio station. Like we don't quite understand how best to manage digital all of a sudden. And that's where you saw like businesses that became very successful, like the Google and the Facebook, that took it off their hands and just like delivered a really good product for them. But I think as publishers have got to kind of matured with the market and understood the value of their digital media, they like want to understand in exactly the same way how much money they're making, how it's being made, where it's being made, in the same way that as a media agency or a brand, you want the inverse of that. You want to see how is it being spent? Where is it being spent? Is it being spent as effectively as possible? And I think if you think about Bitcoin, it was 2008, right? That's now, 16 years ago? It's like now being adopted by the financial mainstream because it's, for Bitcoin specifically, it's a very hard asset that makes a lot of sense in what is softer asset world these days. But that's really only Bitcoin. That's like a store of value, in my opinion. What's really cool is like chains like Ethereum or the layer 2s that are built on top of Ethereum, you know, like the ability for smart contracts to write transactions to a publicly maintained ledger that undergo business functions. And I think that it was in 2018, the IAB looked at a report, or created a report rather, on the application of blockchain to programmatic advertising. And I think at that time, Ethereum was a bit too slow still. Like where you've seen the kind of merge to ETH 2.0, layer 2s are now very efficient at creating fast transactions that are cheap. And as you know, programmatic is basically microtransactions that happen in milliseconds. It's like, hey, you can start to see how those 2 points converge a bit more and can help give you more of the information that you need to plan campaigns better and activate media better. And then equally provide the rails for publishers to get more value for what it is that they're selling. You know, it's just like a natural technology advances, and then it gets adopted and then it gets optimized. And I think we're now probably out of that that curve of like early adopters, innovators, to like with that first chunk. I mean, it's a chart we always throw around, but like we're at about the same point the internet was in the year 2000, you know, and like after the year 2000, the internet went pretty crazy. So like, I'm hoping that something similar happens for the adoption of blockchain, not just for crypto to crypto or meme coins. There's a huge Solana meme coin season going on at the moment. Bonk. Yeah. Benji, which is Taylor Swift's dog, just did very well.
Really?
Apparently that was one to get hands on.
Pepe was
it's just been like, I think that's, memes are great. Like, you know, there's like, they're kind of the currency of the internet. So it makes sense that like digital currency born on the internet has adopted them somewhat, but I think it's got to grow up a bit. It's got to get out of its adolescence and like start being applied to actual businesses and like realize the premise of what is a game-changing, very powerful technology in blockchains.
Yeah, those things that I'd love to build on that you just said. We'll go back to publishers. I actually think it's that there is another sort of commentary that power will go back to the publishers, especially with the like deprecation of the cookie, for example, the need to access quality, valuable audiences at scale will bring power back to large scale sort of publishers, which is fantastic. I actually had to do a presentation, created a presentation on the history of digital advertising before I left IPG, and I think it's fascinating that the start of the internet, sort of just pre.com bubble, a lot of investment was going into things like pets.com these things that the ideas were sound, but the internet was slow, the pixels were poor, nobody, none of those businesses were in a position to actually succeed sort of then. So the whole reason the internet really was able to grow and scale and exist was because of publishers.
True.
They were the only ones that were able to actually establish a business model. Like they could sell ads in return for posting content. right? And it sort of like grew from there, and then speeds matured, everything got into a position with Web 2 or whatever that you can have the likes of Facebook and Uber and Google, and then publishers sort of lost out a little bit from that. So it was a little bit tragic. So it's great to see that a lot of power is going back to publishers, and rightly so. So yeah, just sort of close the point on that. And then, yeah, I mean, again, some of the questions that I had for you, and I have been a enthusiast investor in the crypto space for a little while now, sort of back in 2018, nice. Sort of like bought at the peak of the 2018 bull market. Fantastic.
I'm there with you, brother.
But I think everybody's going to, right? Because nobody is for the first time going to buy into a bear market because I was talking about it.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that probably 90% of people buy around the top of a cycle because that's just naturally when you hear about it for the first time. So that's fine. And I also totally agree that we are still early in terms of full adoption. Like there's even sort of a lot of my friends who I consider to be quite tech proficient, quite sort of upward trends. None of them really like believe or sort of hold cryptocurrency sort of meaningfully, not really sort of about because a few of them do, but largely they don't. So like, well, the headroom there already is just massive if you sort of consider people who are maybe not as tech proficient or interested in, sort of like gaming or naturally sort of digital spaces. So I was wondering if you guys have maybe sort of any expectations or strategy around that, or if you feel like, because if history repeats, this year is going to be excellent for the asset class. Should be excellent for blockchain. If that's I know anything that you guys sort of.
Yeah, I think we've tried to explain, as we were talking before. I love an analogy, like explain blockchain in analogy, so it's easy to grasp. And I think where now you're seeing. In America, kind of the headline news was that the ETFs were signed off by some of like the biggest money managers in the entire world, and it's like, that is what, I mean, a lot of people have been crying out for a long time. It's like, there's this amazing premise of this technology. We just need to know the rules in which we can operate in. And then it's like, okay, kind of speaking as a startup, right? It's like, okay, well, what can we do? How can we do it? And we spend a lot of time kind of acting like it's a fully regulated market, so that when those regulations come in, we are right inside of those, and we can do and operate as we always have been, because we've been playing by the rules. We want to build a business that solves an issue, not just be a Benji token, so I think now we feel like the time is that we can actually talk a little bit more specifically about blockchain, kind of mention it and say like, look, financial institutions are adopting this into the mainstream. Like, we have a solution that ad tech can adopt that into the mainstream. We want to tell you about it. It's just sometimes, I think, as you say, with a group of friends, when you start to talking to people about their mnemonic and their MetaMask and going to Uniswap and then swapping tokens and then be careful about this and that, and it's, if you get it wrong, there's no take backs. People are like, what the hell? That just sounds insane. So I think as it matures, people will feel more comfortable. I think it's kind of just like taking them on that journey. It's just like, we can explain it to you as simply as you want to do, because there is an advantage just to like the features of Alchemy, right? Just like the low fees, the transparent ledger for validating transactions, and then reduced emissions. But equally, if you want to get under the hood, there's probably ways in which businesses can use that technology that we don't understand because we're not that business, but we can help them understand the blocks they have, excuse the pun, but to then create whatever it is they're looking to create on the other side. So it's like, it's the cool thing about it, about being transparent, is that you're transparent, right? So you're like, okay, as soon as you want to learn about this, we can take you down this rabbit hole with us. And there's tons of cool solutions that you'll see that to problems that you might not have thought you could ever have solved. It's why developers are flocking to blockchains, because they have issues they need to solve. That, well, I can solve it this way. Why would I solve it the old way anymore? And that is just like that slow road to adoption. So it's just, again, more education, more specific education, I think, and like trying to use less of the jargon, but equally starting to expose people to the jargon as well, so they can like recognize what we taught them outside of what we taught them, if that makes sense. Yeah,
it does. And I think also just once you get hands-on, and once you are practically using some of these solutions, it really is seamless and it really is easy. Like I also use MetaMask, like Web3 wallet, and just the ability to easily in a very safe and protected way, connect wallet to website,
totally agree,
purchase X from website, you know, remains in your wallet. It's completely secure. The provenance is 100% intact. Like I recently started moving some of my ETH holdings into NFTs.
Oh yeah, nice.
Sort of thinking behind that is that I think everything in a bull market generally goes up. So if you're just holding ETH, your value of ETH will increase. However, if you move some of that into an NFT and the value of that NFT goes up from 1 ETH to 2 ETH, not only is that ETH you originally had appreciating in value, you are gaining more ETH from the value of that NFT.
Totally, yeah.
You do also obviously have a risk of the value of that NFT going down in terms of ETH, but in a bull market, again, if history repeats itself, I don't know. I think it could be hopefully a shrewd move.
Yeah.
But also that highlights a really great use case for blockchain in terms of provenance.
Yeah.
Right. So art, you know, antiques, anything of particularly high value. A lot of provenance is still done offline. You know, it's all done on sort of like paper, for example. And so the risk of what's the word? You know, counterfeiting, all that kind of stuff is, I don't know, it's possibly easier to do when you consider the alternative that, to your point, is everything is very clearly on chain, clearly on a public ledger, and you've got a digital asset, or you've got maybe something that digital that is assigned to a particular artifact or whatever. There's no question, you know, there's no debate about its value or its ownership. So, and there's multiple use cases like that from blockchain. So
I think one that we think about all the time is, we feel like cookies disappearing is a bit like year of the mobile. We've been talking about it for a very long time. I don't know if it is the year of the mobile or I missed it, but anyway, is cookies disappear. So third-party cookies in particular, that's a lot of what companies use to target ads, create segments. First-party data will exist. And I think, again, that puts that power back into publishers' hands that have a ton of that, and rightly so. But there is a very neat solution as the idea of people having a wallet becomes more ubiquitous, where like everyone's seen a cookie notice that drops down on a page when you sign in. It's like that is a very similar UX to when you connect to a dApp with your wallet, right? So it might be in the future that rather than log into your browser, you log into a wallet that houses a browser. And I know MetaMask has that. And then you're immediately, then you have like this ID that you own. It has some of your NFTs. You might have bought, I don't know, been to a Doodles event, had a Doodles NFT from Austin, or you bought a Balenciaga shirt or whatever it is. That lives in your wallet. That is then virtually anonymous because your OX key is pseudo-anonymous unless you're using an ENS domain. But what's interesting, I think, for an advertiser is you can infer quite a lot about what is on-chain and in there. So it's like, let's say, for example, there was, I wouldn't recommend anyone did this, but 100 Ethereum in a wallet that you were using to browse the internet. You could infer that person perhaps has a lot of income, that they might travel, that when they are traveling, they might want to travel in business class or a luxury hotel. And it's like that then becomes quite an interesting set of data that is deterministic. You know that information exists to then target ad campaigns against a profile, which is a lot of what happens with cookies and segments, but it'll be a bit more persistent because I have a lot of wallets, but I don't tend to create more and more very often. Do you know what I mean? If there was one internet wallet I had that, I don't know, maybe a publisher rewarded me if I read 10 articles a week, I got a discount somewhere. Do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, that person might then be interesting for other discount providers or brands for that specific discount, or who knows what you could infer. But I think that, again, in terms of adoption, it takes something big stopping for then someone to be like, what do we do to solve this? And it's like, okay, there is this ready-made solution, which is people use wallets. There are other benefits outside of just a tracking solution on the internet. So it's like there is that then kind of value exchange that makes sense. And then a nice benefit of that is if you use that online, you get better, more targeted ads, probably less of them, and just improve your online experience by providing more value to the advertiser and then the publisher. And just having rails that can do that is, I think, just a huge opportunity, for Alchemy, but then anyone else that kind of moves into this blockchain space. I hope there will be many, to just provide a good alternative to cookies when they ultimately disappear.
Yeah, massively. I mean, the potential and scope for value is huge. So be exciting to watch this space.
With bated breath and waiting a while, haven't we?
anyone who went to the Super Bowl last year got an NFT.
Did they?
Yeah, a unique NFT to say they went to Super Bowl 2023. So even things like that, you can infer interests. You can
totally
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, very very interesting space.
Yeah, tickets are like. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tickets are like an obvious solution for NFTs, tickets, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like A, it becomes a bit of a memorabilia that you never lose, and then B, you just stop touting, which is, I mean, Taylor Swift, anything to go buy some of those tickets. They're going for astronomical amounts,
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. That was great, really interesting discussion sort of territory. Do you think your audience is going to be familiar with these kind of like?
I think some of them will do. Yeah, I think yeah, I hope so. Well, they will be more now. So after having talked about it, but yeah,
I felt that's a nice sort of blend there of sort of like marketing and sort of like and blockchain.
Absolutely.
Ticking the box for what people come here for.
Yeah, we're trying to. We like picture a Venn diagram. And we're trying to get those circles closer and closer together. Because I mean, again, you'll know better than most. Like programmatic advertising is very, very complicated, and people's experience of it is like the very tip of the iceberg, which is just an ad on one of their favorite apps, websites, TVs, you name it, and then you look at the myriad of technologies underneath that support that. Yeah. It's interesting, I think. Well, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but
no, it is.
It's the same with blockchain, right? For your NFT example, like, okay, there's an NFT that you love. That is the tip of what is some pretty cool back-end technology, which you can like really dig into, and I think also get involved in it quite easily. Do you know what I mean? Like one of the things I love about NFTs is that you get one, you go into a Discord, everyone welcomes you in, and then you can just like talk about the NFT in particular or anything else they're talking about. And I think particularly with the pandemic, when people were kind of separated from each other, it created quite a nice like shared interest, tribal.
Yeah. Very, very
talk
much.
About,
like,
do you know what I mean? It was cool.
Communities and cultures that can sort of like spur from online spaces, and NFT associated with those is immense. Yeah. Last one, just I'm personally interested. So, is there any particular NFTs that you think are interesting? Sort of.
I think that the original big collections, so like your Doodles, Pudgy Penguins is now in Walmart.
Pudgies are absolutely going off.
Yeah, I know. I think that they will come around. I think I'll be interested to see if like the 10,000 PFP collection does come back in a way that it did before. Where I've really got into NFTs is I'm a very amateur art collector. And I did one NFT series. I think I'd got an NFT and they used to get us on some whitelists. And one of them was this artist called Peter Tunney. He's based in New York, does these really cool prints. I drew 3 of the NFTs and one of them actually came with a physical bit of artwork, which I got for free. So like signed by the artist, got it delivered, framed on my wall at home. I was like, that is cool. Like, I'd never sell it now. Do you know what I mean? I've got the real version and my digital version. I'm like, that was nice. I now like care about what that artist does. I follow him and the other pieces of art he's done. I think Damien Hirst has like really adopted NFTs in a really cool way. He had a collection called Currency where you either got to it. There was a time period where you either kept the NFT or took the physical print, and whatever you chose, the opposite was burnt. So there was like a video of him just like burning his artwork with people that kept the NFTs, and then vice versa. You'd burn the NFT and get the physical print. So amazing. It's just like that then provides a really interesting way for artists to make money, I think. Yeah. And then again, that becomes interesting if it's in a wallet. Do you know what I mean? It's like, get invited 100%. To more galleries, prove that you've been there, and just it's cool. Keeping it on chain is cool. It
is very cool. Yeah. I would love it eventually to I don't know if this must exist, but some sort of like, digital portrait that just sort of is on a carousel loop of, sort of NFTs that I own. Because to your point, each of them can have very fascinating backstories that, sort of kind of just sort of transcend what a traditional piece of art might, and again, traditional art, paintings, whatever, are amazing. There, you can probably talk about them for a long time, but it can just go in many, many different ways with NFT. The origin, the concept, the thinking behind it. There's another sort of body collection that's called Checks. That was all created or inspired by how the check on Twitter was used to stand for, verified people that have some significance or have some, a good reason for having that, and their opinion might carry more weight in this context or whatever. Where now anyone can just have one if you sort of pay enough money.
Guilty.
And there is also an interesting evolution that you can combine your check, for example, with others to make these more sort of super rare or sort of more like modular versions, and they are then tokenized. So there's one that will be part owned by 8 different people, but what it represents is, is very unique and whatever, and it community building, whatever. I could articulate that better, but again, you can do some fascinating things in that space.
Yeah, and I think that the stick that NFTs were hit by was like the right-click save as. It's just a JPEG online. And I think that if you look at the evolution of the mediums upon which art is created, right? It's like many years ago, you only painted on wood in churches, like that was how you decorated a church. And then some bright spark was like, well, why don't we try canvas? And it's like, okay, canvas is more portable. You can move it around. You can protect it more easily if it was a flood that doesn't get ruined. Do you know what I mean? It's just like the medium on which art was created changed. And that's all I think's happened with NFTs, right? It's just like the way that you code a smart contract and associate the design to that. Like you can do, I think it was Daniel Arsham did some NFTs with a Porsche that over time, like slowly degenerated. And then if it changed wallets, it restarted. So using the way in which you create a smart contract and actually combine that with the art becomes a new medium for art to be created. And like as a medium, it's like, hey, well, if your house burnt down, you don't lose your canvas anymore because you've got it on your ledger, or if you want to take it to your friend's house and put it up because you're all art fans at a dinner party or lease it to someone. Mm-hmm. Or if you wanted to go change the experience in which you bought art, it's like, hey, you go to a gallery, you scan the QR code, you purchase the piece of art, it like disappears from the screen and then like reappears on your phone and then a new one pops up. That's quite a cool experience rather than just a little dot that goes on the painting when it's purchased. So it just like the rails fundamentally change the way that you can experience something, which just like, if you look at technology in general, that's happened across the board. Like it's when mobile phones came out, it made instant messaging rather way better because it was in your pocket the whole time, whereas you had to go home and speak to your mates on MSN. It's like it is instant, but it wasn't instantaneous where you were. So I think that again, that change in technology allows for more innovation in user experience to take place, and I think that is what we'll just see across the board. No,
totally true. And the sort of like right click JPEG thing, I think that's just like that'll go away. It's no different really to Van Gogh's sunflowers. There are a lot of people who have a replica of that because it's a lovely painting, but it's very different to provably having the original painting, which is exactly just what NFTs on blockchain can do. You can have a right click version of it on your desktop, but it is not.
No, it is not quite. I don't think it'd fetch the same amount as Sotheby's, would it?
Well, yeah.
So
awesome. So I mean that was a lovely cross section between sort of marketing and crypto.
I think perfect. I think it's awesome to.
Was there any other questions you might be interested in around Coca-Cola programmatic or anything?
I think. Well, I guess like in the spirit of the blockchain side of things is. Do you think that's something that Coca-Cola might adopt in the future? Like, I know Starbucks did it with reward schemes. I don't know if that's something that Coca-Cola are looking at, but that would be something that'd be interesting to me. Yeah.
So I probably can't speak on behalf of the company sort of just yet. My personal opinion is that I think it is inevitable in probably a similar way that all businesses are now currently looking at AI and how can we harness and leverage AI to improve anything that we do in our business, the output of anything we do in our business. I think a similar sort of story is going to be told with blockchain as well at some point. I think every business will probably look at what can we do with blockchain technology, how can it positively impact or affect the way that we do things in our business, and let's go about realizing that once we've made that assessment. I think that will happen. I said to you guys, I personally am sort of going back to school in the second half of this year and doing a course on blockchain. So I would I would personally love to be in a position after that to hopefully identify some areas,
okay, yeah, nice.
and maybe make some proposals. But who knows? This is very much my personal point of view rather than the company's at the moment. Yeah, as I said, I do think that every business most likely will be able to benefit from it in some way to varying different degrees. Yeah.
I will actually, I know we were talking before, I'll throw it back over to you. Is there any questions that you wanted to ask me about alchemy?
Yeah, there was. In my previous role at IPG at Matterkind, we did a fantastic campaign with you guys for Amazon as a client. I won't sort of say any particular results, but it was very, 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 very positive. So I got to learn a lot more about you guys through that. Haven't done anything for Coca-Cola yet, but TBC, we've got a long road ahead. But I was specifically wondering, because I didn't quite grasp this. I know that the alchemy token, cryptocurrency token, is ads.
Yep.
And I wondered what the function of ads was in your product, your exchange product, if there's a function at all. And a second part to that is, would there ever be any benefit in a brand or even an agency holding or owning a certain amount of ads?
So yeah, there's first question first, makes sense. So in much the same way that proof of stake works with Ethereum, basically you require a number of tokens to collateralize one of our nodes. When you have a node, you're able to validate transactions on the network. So actually, rather than there be one instance that is validating all the transactions for the entire exchange, we have a network of nodes that are able to validate some transactions if they're based in the US and it originates there, or Europe and so on. The benefit to that, very plainly speaking, is that we have people that are willing to support the ad-funded internet to validate transactions. And the benefit to them is that they receive part of the transaction value. So we charge between 3 and 8%. So if you validate X number of transactions, you receive rewards for doing so in the form of an ads token.
That comes from your supply take rate, for lack of a better word.
Exactly right. Yeah. So like you imagine brand A buys an ad.
Okay.
We send 97% of that money to the publisher.
Yep.
The protocol keeps 3% in much the same way that gas fees work on Ethereum.
Okay.
So yeah, that's one way. The other way is that we have a liquidity pool that exists on Balancer. So you're able to pool liquidity. That allows us to support kind of the financial transaction side of things. So being able to pay invoices out of that pool itself, to receive rewards from some of those transactions that have been validated in that pool, just to attract more liquidity, to allow, ideally, there's no reason why in the future you couldn't just buy an ad with an ads token and then part of that is then chipped off to a publisher, because there's nothing stopping a publisher validating transactions. There's nothing stopping a brand validating transactions, because then rather than you giving that away, that value away to a third party,
like a miner.
Yeah, exactly. You get to keep that for helping support the network on which you're trading on. So brand A would keep 3% of all the transactions that they validated. Okay. So like you're basically providing some value in compute power effectively to validate transactions, and then receiving a reward for doing so.
Okay.
To kind of create this idea of a generative economic model where people add some value before they get some value, rather than just coming and taking value out and moving on.
Okay. So how would a brand or agency help validate a transaction? Is that something that is a human base and a skill set that they would have to train up, or is it something they could quite simply just sign up to and start funding?
Yeah, exactly that. So that is the kind of beauty of the node management software. So the node management software allows us to deploy applications, in this example, an ad exchange, to an instance to validate transactions. So there would be the need for a brand or an agency to feel comfortable having crypto on their balance sheet, because you would need to hold a number of ads tokens. We then provide a NFT. So that NFT is then associated to your particular node. That allows you to then join the network almost like as a receipt. And then you can start to validate transactions. So it's purely just a case of acquiring the collateral to validate, getting your NFT, joining the network, and then validating transactions and being rewarded for doing so. So it just, ultimately then
what is that last piece though? What specifically does joining the network and validating transactions like? Because I understand there'll be an initial investment in acquiring ads, but yeah, what is the specific thing that an entity would have to do to start validating transactions?
So you could either run, if you had your own hardware, you would install our application on that hardware and it would join the network. Or if you wanted to deploy a cloud infrastructure instance like EC2, AWS, or Vultr, Linode, it's kind of agnostic to the provider. You deploy and install that application. We've got a very simple process. So it's kind of like a one-click install, and then we take care of it. And then you are then prompted time and again to refresh, update, like there is some ongoing management, but it's it probably could take you an hour a month at most. And that's like 5 minutes every week just to maintain. It doesn't make an hour, but kind of just like making sure it's healthy, making sure that your uptime is close to 100% as possible, just ensuring that you're always there and always ready to provide processing power and transactional compute power to the network when it needs it.
Yeah.
Which kind of gets us around some of the issues that you have with timeouts in transactions. Like if an ad originates on the West Coast and it's being validated on the East Coast, there can sometimes mean that bid falls out, isn't validated, and that impression or the chance to sell or buy that impression is lost, even though it could have been beneficial to an advertiser or a publisher to buy or sell that particular ad.
Okay, great, good to know. That is a for me personally, I think it's a quite a cool reality when, I don't know, X brand is that involved and invested and contributing to the system in that way.
That's the dream.
TBC, exactly. To what degree that's realized, but it's a very nice thing to think about.
Because I think it would give some power back to, because there's like bodies like the IAB, which are great, which help like govern the standards by which ads are traded, but it's not necessarily that enforceable. Like you can still have people that operate outside of those standards to buy and sell ads, whereas using a decentralized network, those standards are enforced by the system. So if you're not operating, those ad transactions are just never eligible to be validated and actually be written to the ledger itself. So it kind of self-polices in that sense. And then again, you can use the ads token to collateralize a node, but equally it does give you a degree of like voting power on like features that would be beneficial to the network. So
of course. Yeah.
If you wanted to build support for ads, AR ads in the future, that could be really useful for brands or publishers to sell that as a media source, but that takes development work. So it's like, okay, well, we want to develop this. We're prepared to put some resource against it. We want you all to agree, then get involved. And like that kind of spirit of decentralization is that everyone is adding some value before they immediately come and take it away. And you have not just like has to operate within this box. It's like everyone can kind of contribute to it. It allows people to take up a bit of a task here and push it to the network, and a bit of a task here and push it to the network, because there is that built-in rewards mechanism. So it's like, don't break the toys, because then no one can play with them. So
for sure.
That's what we hope. That's probably a little way away. I think there's a bit more adoption of blockchain before we get to that point, but ultimately that is what is possible with blockchain and Alchemy's application of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because also when it comes to like product development, having been in sort of like product roles previously, you do have a hit and miss rate, if you know what I mean. And if you're trying to develop a product or you're trying to develop a solution, you speak to as many people as possible, speak to different brands, different agencies, different people who are being involved in realizing that product, and you think, okay, great, that seems to be meeting this market need. You develop it, you test it, you sort of roll it out, and some will be massively successful, but some won't be at all. And so if you have a community who is actually voting or contributing and voting on what we actually think will be valuable, you almost sort of guarantee that the output of that is going to be adopted, because it's been a community-led, community sort of voted on project. So
it's like Prebid have done it to a degree. Do you know what I mean? Like that's an open source company. Like there's just like there's not an obvious way to reward people that are contributing in that. So I think, the blockchain allows you to attribute value to an input and then also output value as well, so it just like creates better rails to reward contribution, loyalty, expertise that's governed by the network. So yeah, it's well, as I say, we are drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, likewise, and wish you guys all the best, and I'll be following the journey.
Appreciate that
closely.
So yeah, thanks for joining us, James. I think this is a really good chat, really interesting. We covered a lot of ground, so yeah, it's gonna be a good listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for having me.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.